specific purpose. Why are you giving the speech or the presentation? For example, you're going to give a presentation about technical description, okay, when you're going to describe about a new thing, or maybe later on you're going to give a presentation when it comes to recommendation report, okay. And then who will be your specific audience, okay, you need to decide about it. But basically, when it comes to technical communication, you are actually trying your best to describe about a product, okay, to all range of people. I mean, those with technical background and those without the technical background. Okay. So, what are the needs that you need to pay attention to? Okay, specific situation and the tools. So, basically, these are the things that you need to know about technical communication and technical oral presentation. Okay. Then this week we are supposed to have a look at this topic, which is on planning a technical description. Okay, we are going to have a look at the 9 steps of planning a technical description, and then we are also going to have a look at writing a technical description. Okay, but before we go into detail about it, okay, this is on the technical description part, writing it. All right, let's have a look at what you have read last week, okay, on technical description. Okay, so basically we can say that a technical description means a detailed discussion of the physical details and quantifiable aspects of an object. Quantifiable meaning that things that you can count or measure, such as the number of cars on a parking lot or geographical locations or distance. So, meaning that you can put it into numbers. Okay, physical details like sources of description. I've mentioned about the color, the shape, dimension, size, texture, materials, and such. Okay, and quantifiable meaning that you can count it. Okay, so a machine, a large machine. So that is one machine, and then when you're going to describe about that machine in detail, you're going to have the several parts, the main parts, the sub parts, and you're going to have a look at how each part function. Okay, right, next. So technical descriptions are commonly found in web pages, okay, sales brochures, reports, manuals, articles in magazines. Okay, for example, if you want to buy a new laptop and then you need to read more about the laptop, the specification, for example, what is the operating system that the computer is using. All right. For example, in my case, I just bought a new laptop. Okay, not really new. I bought it last year. Okay, and then this is run by AMD Ryzen 5. Okay, I am not using Intel, but I am using AMD Ryzen 5. Okay, and then the equipped version of the original version of this laptop is 4 gig RAM, and then I have upgraded it to 12 gig RAM because I need to do some editing on the video and pictures. So that are some of the technical descriptions that you can commonly see when you read sales brochures, for example. Okay, or if you go to the website of HP or Dell, okay, or Apple page, then you can see when you click on each of the product, then you can see the description of each of the product. Okay, so that is one of the example of technical description. Okay, and then a technical description is commonly organized using part by part approach. So when you're going to talk about a laptop, perhaps, okay, you're going to talk about the screen first, the display. What is the dimension? Okay, is it OLED or QLED kind of thing? And then the keyboard, you go to the hardware, you talk about the whether it is using hard disk or SSD. Okay, how much, how fast, what is the capacity of the RAM? So that is called a technical description. Okay, and then here are the given sources of description. Okay, you have gotten this in our column. Okay, I've shared with you last week as well in column and also in Google Classroom. So when you're going to describe about a product, you can look for purpose. Okay, what is the purpose of having the product? Okay, and then what is the size of the product? All right, so be specific. Right, you can talk about the dimension. Okay, right. Okay, all right, no worries. Lily Wahida. All right. And then you have color. What is the color of the product that you're going to describe? Okay, is it black? Is it red? Okay, for example, last week we have the launching of Prodo Ativa. Okay, for example, all right. So it is fall under A segment or B segment of the car, all right, and then it is SUV. So what are the colors offered by Prodoa, for example? So you can have a look at the color. So the texture or finish of the product, whether it is a rough texture, smooth, wavy, shiny, dull, dark, glossy. Okay, so if you are familiar with the what do you call it, wrapping of a car, so people go for like a matte black, okay, right, or a glossy black, so that kind of texture. So dimension, length, height, width, okay, depth, right, and then the materials used to produce the product, whether this product is being made using wood or steel, okay, and then methods of attachment. How do you attach all the parts of the product using screw or maybe nail or maybe glue, okay, or welded all together, okay. And I believe when you are talking about your smartphone, perhaps some of the parts are being attached using glue, and some of the parts are attached being or using screw, okay. And then orientation, when you're talking of orientation of parts to each other, so you are actually talking about the location of the parts, okay, whether it is on top or behind, right. And then most probably when you are describing about, for example, the battery of the smartphone, so the battery is placed inside the casing, all right, under the screen. So you are talking about the orientation. So the capacity or volume or amount, okay, let's say you want to describe about a large water tank, okay, so you are going to talk about the capacity of the water tank, okay, it can hold up to 1000 liter, for example. Okay, the pattern or design, the smell or odor, and then the age. Okay, so here are the sources of description that you are going to use for your first assessment. Okay, assessment 1B and assessment 1A, which is on technical description or technical oral presentation. Okay, right, this is a product description that you can check on your own, or I believe that you have read this. Okay, all right, so what are the parts over here? You can see that there are 9 parts being mentioned. Okay, starting from handle, then we have pin, the carrier, the anvil base, okay, cream area, and the rest. So each one has its own function. How does it work? Okay, so you can read this on your own, and I believe you have done that. Okay, this is the continuation. All right, so we have done this, I believe, as well. Okay, the part by part approach is one of the keys for describing an object or a mechanism. So, what you are supposed to do once you have done this activity, I believe most of you have done this. Okay, you can check in Google, right, how many parts are there for a TV remote, handphone, bicycle, electric kettle, bulb, and watch, and check whether the one that you have given earlier is similar or not. But there is no right or wrong answers because it depends on the model. So different model will have different parts. Okay, so that is one thing that you need to take into consideration. All right, so we're not going to talk about this. Okay, let's skip this part. Right. Any questions so far, class?
Doctor, I have one.
Yes.
Regarding the part by part approach just now for the
Mm-hmm.
product,
Mm-hmm.
is it we need to classify the component of the product and
Okay.
the exercise you just showed just now?
All right. Okay. So let's say when we are talking about the part, right? Component and part are two different things. Okay. Let's say if you're going to talk about the screen of your laptop. Okay, that is a part. All right. That is the part. Okay. So maybe when you are talking or describing about a laptop, there must be several parts. For example, the screen, the hardware, and also the keyboard. Let's say there are 3 parts. Okay. Each of the part will consist of different components. So you have the LCD screen, you have the ribbon at the back, okay, and then maybe you have some other cables. So that will be the components under each of the part. So each part will comprise of many components or different components. Do I answer your question?
So it means that when we talk about part, it's just the biggest, like the main one.
Yes.
So we need to elaborate in our description lah.
Yes.
Doctor.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say if you're going to talk about the screen, okay, the screen of the laptop, that is going to be the main part number one, for example. And then what are the components that you use to produce the screen? So there will be different components. Okay, all right, so that is about the parts and the component. Any other question? No other question?
No.
Okay, all right, great. So let's move on, okay, to Kalam. If you go to week number 2 in Kalam, okay, since that we are supposed to get into a new topic today, which is planning a technical description. Planning a technical description here. So you can go to Kalam and then you can download these PowerPoint slides, all right? Planning a technical description. Okay, all right, so over here, I have downloaded the slide for all of you. You don't have to copy everything. You can just jot down some additional information that I have shared with all of you. Okay, all right, or I will be sharing for all of you. Okay, so basically, when you are going to plan for a technical description, when you're going to describe about the product, okay, there are 9 strategies in order that you can use in order to produce or to plan for an effective technical description. Okay, so remember this for assessment 1A and assessment 1B. All right, since that you're going to work in a group, I have checked in our WhatsApp group. You have given me 10 groups altogether. There are 27 of you right now. Okay, hopefully we are going to have, maybe we are going to have more until 30. But if we are going to stick with 27 numbers, okay, of you in the class, maybe you can divide yourself into 9 groups altogether instead of 10. So one of the groups are going to merge with each other. Okay, so you go back to our WhatsApp group afterwards, later on, okay, you check the name list given. If your group consists of only 2 of you, maybe 2 of you can join other groups, okay, because you have not decided yet on what is the product that you're going to present. Okay, so the briefing about the first assessment will be given next week. So this week, all right, so you look back at the name list given earlier for the group work. Remember, it's going to be maximum 3 in a group. So since that there are 27 of you all together at this moment, so I am expecting for us to have 9 groups altogether. Okay, all right, so we'll go back about the grouping part later on. So now let's have a look at the 9 strategies to plan for an effective technical description. Okay, so step number 1, you have to identify the subject. What is the product that you are going to present? So you have to identify the subject. And of course, next week, I will share with you the list of banned products. Okay, so if you look at the banned products, the list of the banned products, there are certain things that is very, there are certain things that are very common to all of us. For example, the smartphone. So for the smartphone, all right, you are not going to use it for the technical description. Of course, you're not going to discuss about a smartphone unless maybe we can discuss in the team. Okay, I mean the teaching team, we will discuss if it is a very new kind of smartphone. For example, a transparent smartphone. Okay, a transparent smartphone, meaning that you can see through it. Right, so maybe it's something new. So maybe we can discuss about it, whether you can use the product for the technical description. So at first, you and your team members, you need to identify the product, and then maybe someone in your group might be having a problem to understand more about the product and how it works. So you have to discuss whether everyone can really understand the functions of the product and how to describe about it. And remember, some of the product, okay, will be a bit difficult for you to describe because they are limited parts. Okay, so try to find a product that consists many parts and you can describe about each of the parts. Okay, then number two, define the purpose and audience for the description. So what is the purpose of you giving the description or the presentation? So in order to inform, okay, your audiences about this product and how it works. Okay, for your assessment 1B, you are going to assume that you are a representative of a company and then you are going to attend a virtual exhibition. Okay, so in an exhibition, normally you're going to showcase your product. So when you're going to showcase your product, you're going to tell your audiences what is the product, how does it work, the functions, the features, and everything. So that is the purpose of you giving the description. And for the audience, okay, for the audience, your your targeted audience will be from the technical to non-technical background. So people with technical and non-technical background. So meaning that when you are presenting, when you are describing about the product, make sure that they can understand in the easiest way. Okay, so let's say if you're going to talk about the motto of the product, okay, the motto that control the system and everything, some people might not understand what you're trying to tell them. So you have to explain to them in the simplest way. Okay, so that is about defining the purpose and audience for the description. Okay, and then number three, research the object or the product. Of course, this is the must. And when you are going to find a product for the presentation, okay, you're going to do some a small research about the product that you are going to describe. Okay, so you're going to read thoroughly about the product, what is the company or the name of the manufacturer, okay, what are the main parts, what are the sub parts, okay, how each of the parts are being produced, what are the materials used to produce the parts. Refer back to the sources of description. Okay, next you need to identify the parts and subparts. Again, as I have mentioned to you, some of the product might be having a problem because they are limited parts of the product. So try to find one, okay, that consists of many parts or subparts. All right, and then number five, select sources of description. Okay, this is also very important because remember that you are going to describe about the product in detail. So if you notice over here, all right, we have a variety of sources of description. So you can talk about the size, you can talk about the shape, the color, even some of the product, okay, each parts of it or maybe subparts of the product consists of different color. Okay, so if you are in charge in describing about that particular subparts or main part, okay, then your sources of description might be different from each other. Okay, so if you're asking me, sir, all right, for the first assessment, can if I'm going to be in charge of like presenting about the handle of the product, okay, so can I use different sources of description for my part? Yes, you can do so because all of the sources of description over here can be applied to the product. So it doesn't mean that each product or each part must consist of the same or must be under same sources of description. It can be under different sources of description. Okay. All right, and then use specific language. We're going to learn about the language this week in the second meeting, because in the second meeting, you're going to learn about parts of speech over here, simple present tense, and then active voice. Okay. And then plan and develop graphics. Okay, remember you are required to create your own infographic. Okay, so most probably your product is going to be the center of your infographic or your poster, and then you are going to highlight each of the main parts and the subparts, and then you're going to describe or put some wordings regarding the parts and subparts. Okay, And number 8, you are going to plan for a format, technical description, writing outline. So we're going to have a look at it. It is in Kalam as well. And lastly, you need to review and revise. Okay, this is very important because once you have planned for your technical description, you have to look back at it at your own, okay, meaning that let's say there are 3 of you look at each of your part, then you can also ask your group members to look at each of your parts, okay, the parts that you're going to describe, and then whether there are some changes to be made. So if there are changes to be made, then you need to revise your contents. Okay, so basically these are the 9 strategies to plan for an effective technical description. Okay, all right, class. Any question? Class?
Doctor,
Yes.
usually, what are the minimum number of source of description and also uh, or an a minimum number of part that are required for us to do the assessment.
Okay. All right. So it depends on the instruction of the question, right? So before this, normally we are looking at 6 main parts for a group of 3. 6 main parts for a group of 3. Okay. So previous semester, we are looking at 6 main parts for a group of 3. So meaning that each presenter, you are required to present about 2 different parts or sub parts. Okay. If it is a pair work, you are looking at 4 different what do you call it, main parts. Okay, so for each of the part over here, the sources of description might be different, so it depends on you, because remember over here you need to do a research about the object, and then you need to identify the parts and subparts. So maybe when it comes to you, the subpart or the parts that you are presenting or describing will consist of different sources of description. Okay, so maybe the color is standardized, maybe there's no dimension, then you go about with any of the sources of description that you can use in describing for the parts and the subparts. Okay, so it depends on the question. Next week, inshallah, all right, hopefully by next week the question is going to be ready, then I'm going to share with you and discuss with you about it in detail. So let's say, okay, if you're going to describe about a laptop, okay, the screen of it, all right. So maybe there are only 3 subparts for the laptop. You can talk about the casing, the screen of the laptop. You can talk about the casing. You can talk about the screen, and you can also talk about the ribbons or the cable beneath it. All right. So there are only 3 subparts of a screen of a laptop, for example. And then when you are going to use the sources of description, maybe you're going to talk about the material used to do it or to create the screen, the casing for the laptop screen, for example. Okay, and then what is the ribbon or the cable made from? Okay, what is the color of the ribbon, for example? Okay, so that will be the sources and description about the parts and subparts. Any other question before we proceed? Class?
No, doctor.
All right. Okay, great. How about the others? You tend to be in silent. Are you okay?
So far, so good, sir.
All right. If I am too fast, let me know. Okay, I will slow down a bit so that you can understand. Okay, please, if you have question, you can also stop me, and then you can just ask me a question. Switch on your mic, and then I will try to answer your question. Okay. Right. So here are the details for each of the 9 strategies that you can use to plan for an effective technical description. Okay. Number 1, identify the subject or object or product. So be clear about the object that you are describing. Okay, so is it an object such as a stapler or computer, a product such as shoes or wallet, or a software, okay, like programs and application. Okay, so please be very careful and please be very specific of the product that you are going to present. Okay, if it is going to be a laptop, so a laptop it is. All right, you're not going to talk about the software because it is different part of the or different product. Okay, so if you're going to talk about, okay, you and your team, we're going to describe about a laptop, then you are only going to talk about the laptop. But of course, I will be here to assist you, meaning that I'm going to look at your outline of your presentation and I will give you suggestion based from that thing. Okay. Number two, define the purpose and audience for the description. Okay, so you need to clarify the purpose of the description. So do you want it to be informative or persuasive? Informative here, meaning that you are just going to inform your audiences. So the given product here, you're just going to inform your audiences about the product. That's it. But for persuasive, it is going to be a bit different, whereby you are going to persuade your audiences. Okay, so the simplest method that I can share with you, let's say you go to the shopping mall, okay, and then at the concourse area, okay, you have people selling their products. For example, a blender. Okay, a powerful blender. You can put your iPhone inside the blender, and then they are going to blend the iPhone, and then it went just like that. Okay, for example, so that is a persuasive presentation because you are going to persuade your audiences to buy or to use your product. Okay, so meaning that when you are presenting about the product, at first you're going to inform about each of the components or the parts, okay, in the product, and then after that you're going to persuade your audiences to buy or to use the product. Right. Okay, next, what do you want from your audience? Okay, again here, maybe you wanted them to know more about the product, or maybe you are looking forward for them to buy your product. Okay, sometimes it is interesting to watch that kind of presentation, technical description, whereby they are telling you about this powerful blender, for example, okay, and how it is how it is convenient for you, how good it is, what are the benefits of you buying the product and such, right? And then you need to consider who will be your audience, okay, whether they are general public or experts. So non-technical background versus technical background. So remember that, okay? And in general, please try when you are describing about the product, when you are giving a presentation, make sure your audiences can understand what you are telling them. Okay, so always think ahead that, right, when you are going to present, okay, the people in front of you maybe don't know anything about the product, or you cannot assume that they don't know everything because somehow they may know some of the things that you are telling them. So please make sure you are trying to explain to them in the simplest way possible. Okay, right, next. Number three, research the object. Okay, so do some background research about the object on the internet to enable you to understand the subject matter better. Okay, so let's say if you're going to give a technical description about a grass cutter, for example, or maybe electric trimmer. Okay, so you don't know about the product, but somehow since that we are living in 2021 now, so you have the access to the internet and you can search about the product. Okay. And then the same thing when you're going to present or when you're going to prepare for your infographic, of course, the image you're going to take it from the internet and put it in your infographic. So you need to know what is the product that you are trying to present. Okay. So let's say there are three of you, two of the group members know what is the product, but the other one does not really know about the product. So it is your task to make sure that each one of you in the group understand about the product and what does it mean by using the product. Okay, right. That is number three. Are you okay, everyone? Do you understand me?
Okay, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
all
sir.
right.
Yes.
Please stay awake. It's already 10:40. No worries. We're going to end soon. Okay. Right. Next. Point number four, identify the parts and subparts. Okay, partition the object by separately describing its parts and subparts. okay, if any. So some of the product might consist sub parts. Most of the product consists only the main parts. So you are going to, based from your research of the product, okay, you're going to decide what are the parts that you're going to present. Okay, for example, a computer over here. So the description might be described by first partitioning it into a monitor, keyboard, external disk, central processing unit or CPU. Okay, all right. Okay, on the other hand, we are going to look at the simple wooden pencil. Okay, a pencil, right? It can be described beginning with the lead, the wooden barrel, the eraser, and the metal clip that holds the barrel and eraser together. And each part of it, right, might be using different sources of description. Okay, so that is about the identifying the parts and subparts of a product. Okay, next, number 5, you select the sources of description. So we have seen here what are the sources of description. Okay, there are many of it. So it depends on the parts and subparts of the product that you are going to present. Okay, that is about sources of description. Let's move on to number 6. Okay, use a specific language or terms. For example, okay, the general terms here, the latest sports car model, okay, or the latest addition to Pro Duo production. So instead of saying the SUV, you can say that the Activa SUV. So you are being specific. Okay, all right. So if you're going to talk about the horsepower of the engine, so instead of saying that the horsepower is fast enough, then you're going to explain that it can generate, okay, the engine can generate 120 horsepower. So you be specific. Okay, all right. So, or instead of saying that the car is fast, you can describe that the car can goes up to 250 kilometers per hour, for example. So you are describing about the product in detail. Okay, number 7, plan and develop graphics. All right, I believe you can get this from the internet. So please, when you are searching for the product, to be remember that each of the product that you are going to present, okay, each group or each pair, okay, you are going to get my consent. So meaning you need to get my approval first. If I approve about the product, then you need to go on. Okay, if I didn't approve about the product, okay, you need to find other product. All right, and then please try to find something that is recent. Okay, so how do I do about it? So let's say if you're going to talk about a grass cutter, okay, a grass cutter or electric grass trimmer. So you can go to YouTube, for example, you type of the name of the product, and you can look at the description of the video. So if the video has been produced for like 5 years ago, it means that the product is not something new. Okay, so let's say, for example, you're going to describe about PS5. Okay, and so you have look at YouTube, and then it was only reviewed by 2020, for example. So that one can be considered as a new product. And again, all of the groups in this section, you're not going to have the same product altogether. So each group will have a different product. Okay, and then once you have done some background research about the product, what you're supposed to do is that to make sure that you can have this kind of graphics. Okay, so that will be easier for you to explain or to describe about each part or subparts of the product. Okay, number 8, plan a format. Right, the format is given in column as well. I'm going to show you the detailed version after this. And then lastly, you review and revise your presentation. Okay, you review and revise your presentation. So you can check, you can double check your content, whether it is correct or not, whether it is meant for this particular group or not. And then if there is any changes, okay, you can revise the content. Okay, and please be very careful about the spelling of the parts and subparts. So please double check about it. Okay, that is about the 9 stages or the 9 stages that you can use in planning a technical description. Okay, right. So if you go to Kalam, okay, so you can go to Kalam, right? You can click on this, writing a technical description. Okay, writing a technical description here, sorry. Okay, it is in PDF form. Okay, this is the template. Okay, so technical description, what is the title, the name of the product that you're going to present, the introduction consists of these things, and then description of main parts and subparts, if any, meaning that if there is no subparts for the product, then don't worry. Okay, right, and then main part 1, 2, and 3, and then the conclusion. Okay, for example, here, this is an example. Workhorse flashlight, this is the name. This is the introduction, right? Okay, as you can see over here, description of main parts and subparts. Main part 1. Okay, main part 1 consists of, all right, the body, battery compartment, and the switch. Okay, main part number 2, bulb assembly, reflector, okay, and the bulb itself, together with the connector, and lastly the conclusion. Okay, so this is how you can describe about a product in writing. Okay, all right. Question, class?
Sir, I have a
Yes.
question.
Mm.
I apa ni? I don't really understand about the part and subparts. That means if for example in the slide before, number 4 that identify the parts and subpart,
Okay.
for a computer, the monitor, keyboard, external disk, so on tu, yang tu part.
Okay, all right. So if you're going to describe about a computer, okay, so the computer, all right, let's say this consists of a monitor, a keyboard, external disk drive, and a central processing unit. Okay, that can be the main parts of the product. Okay.
Okay, that's the main part. So the
Okay.
subpart.
Okay, let's say the keyboard itself, or no, let's say the monitor itself, the subparts of it. So you can talk about the casing of the monitor. The casing will be subpart number 1. Okay, and then behind the casing, what do you have behind the monitor? Maybe some chips, maybe some cables, some ribbons behind the monitor. So that can be the subparts. Okay, so all of these subparts, when you put it together, all right, and you attach it to the main part, then the main part can work. Understand?
Okay, got it.
So meaning that the main part need the subparts to make it work. If you don't have the subparts, maybe okay, for certain product, of course you're not going to get the subparts. Okay, for example, a handle. Okay, a handle of a kettle. There are no subparts. There is only the main part, the handle of the kettle. So when you're describing about the handle of the kettle, for example, okay, there will be no subparts, but you're going to describe about it as a main part, and it consists of, okay, or not consists, you're going to use the sources of description, you're going to talk about the material that you use to produce the handle of the kettle. So maybe you're going to say that it is produced using, what do you call it, plastic, okay, PVC plastic, for example, okay, and then the dimension of the handle. So that will be your sources of description. But if you're going to talk about a monitor, for example, okay, the monitor itself is going to be the main part, and behind the main part, there are some other subparts that when you attach it together to the main part, and the main part can work properly. Okay, for example, all right, you're going to talk about the monitor. Okay, you're going to talk about the dimension and such. The subparts, you're going to talk about the casing of the monitor. So it is made from aluminium, for example. It is made from plastic, for example. So that are the subparts. Okay, understand?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. How about the others? Do you have any other question?
Doctor, in Kalam, under week one, we have this language exercise. So do we have to do that?
In Kalam, under week one, you have the
Language exercise.
okay language exercise. Yes, you can do this on your own, but no marks will be given. That is only for practice. Okay,
Okay,
it is
sir.
only for practice. All right. Okay, any other question before we go on to the last thing that I'm going to share with you?
No,
Okay,
sir.
all right. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Okay, in Kalam week 2, we have writing a technical description. Okay, this is an exercise. Okay, so activity, this is the one. All right, I have downloaded it. Okay, this one is taken from Kalam. So since that you already have your own group, okay, for the first assessment, okay, this is going to be your practice. Okay, in group, write a one-page technical description of one of the objects below. So you choose only one. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 10 altogether. There are 10 objects altogether. Okay, so use the technical description outline and include graphics to illustrate the object. So that this will be your activity. Okay, so you work in group, you discuss among you, choose one of the products given here, only one, okay, and then you need to describe about the product. Okay, so use this guideline. Okay, so where to get this? It is also in Kalam. Okay, so hopefully you can submit it, okay, before the end of this week. Can you do so? I'm going to create this activity in our Google Classroom. Okay, in our Google Classroom. So it's going to be here, right? Week 2. So under week 2 over here, this is week 1. So this is the question, you have answered it. So under week 2, I'm going to create another activity over here whereby you can upload your work. Okay, so what are you going to do is that you choose one of the objects here. Okay, work in group, 3 of you. Okay, and then you describe about the object. All right, this is an activity, and then you can include graphics to illustrate the object. Okay, so this is going to be an early exposure for your infographic and also for your writing part. Okay, for assessment 1A. Okay, so you are actually going to share the graphic, and then you're going to describe about the product that you have chosen here. So there are 10 products altogether. You choose only one. Okay, and then you work in group. Okay, class? Class.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Okay,
Okay.
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 Okay, doktor.
So one page only doesn't. So we do simple
It
description only.
depends. Depends on you. Okay, depends on you. All right, depends on the product that you have chosen. Remember, look at the example given. Okay, for the technical description. All right. So this is the template. Okay, and this is the sample of it. So let's say you're going to talk about, okay, what is the activity? Okay, let's say we choose hair dryer, for example. Okay, hair dryer. So you're going to put it hair dryer here. What is the name of the hair dryer, for example? Okay, the introduction, and then you have the image or the graphic of the hair dryer being put here, and then how many parts are there, for example. You don't have to be very specific. This is just an exercise. I wanted to see whether you really understand about technical description, and this is the activity that is going to lead you towards producing the correct version for your assessment 1A and assessment 1B. Okay? Class, are you okay?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. All right. How about the others? Are you
Okay,
there?
sir.
All right.
Okay, sir.
Okay. All right. So I hope you really understand what you're going to do. Okay. And then, yeah, if you have any question regarding the activity, you can ask me. And the submission will be in our Google Classroom. I'm going to create the activity under week 2 under technical oral presentation. So each group, you need to submit only one work. Okay, so you work together, you discuss with your group members, and then only one person need to upload it to the Google Classroom under which activity. Okay, I'm going to create the activity after this, so you can have a look at the activity. No due date, but hopefully you can complete it within this week. Okay,
Okay, sir.
class.
Okay, sir.
Right.
Okay,
Any other
sir.
question before we end our class today? So you still have an hour to go after this, okay? So you can create your own Google Meet and you discuss among your team members. Any other question?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
All right. So if you don't have any other question, but let's say somehow you found out, okay, there is a question that you can ask in the group, okay? Please ask, please do so, ask in the group, and then I will reply to it as soon as possible. Okay, class? So thank you very much for joining me this morning. Okay, it is good to have you back. Some of you in UMP, please. I know that you are in quarantine now. Take a good care of yourself. Okay, and then so until then, okay. And thank you very much again. I'll see you when I see you. Right. So you are free to leave the session now.
Thank you,
Okay, thank
sir.
you,
Thank you,
sir.
doctor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank you,
You're
sir.
welcome.